we can go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome everyone to Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. My name is Nina Joshi, and with us today we have the lovely Joy Rios, founder of Hit Like a Girl podcast and co-founder of Chirpy Bird. Before we begin, just wanted to give a very quick background on myself. I work as a consultant and design researcher at Kaiser Permanente's Health Innovation Department. And quick announcements before we kind of jump into the conversation. We are still looking for participants with our study with Curio. So if you are postpartum and are interested, please check out the information that's going to be in the chat. And we also have our Women's Health Tech Challenge event on December 17th. And all of that information on how to register will also be on the chat. All right, great. And with that, I would like to bring out our guest, Joy. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, Nina. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Same here. Well, I think, a good place to start, knowing that you are doing so much in this space, in the health IT space with the podcast and the company, would love if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself and kind of what got you interested.
Well, I got into health IT I got pulled into it, to be honest. It was something that happened and I was inspired a little bit by my family, where I had an uncle and a father who worked in document management, and they based in microfilm and microfiche back in the late 80s, early 90s. They were on the island of Puerto Rico. And so I would go visit them in the summertime, and it was always like, bring your kid to work day. And so a lot of my experience was driving around the island of Puerto Rico, picking up files of like Red Cross patient information, bringing it back to the office, and watching people scan it and turn it into microfilm and microfiche and then send it back. And I never really realized that that was an entry into healthcare or health IT. I ended up doing a senior project on it in high school and then kind of forgot about it for years and years and years. And then when I got my MBA, when I had finished, I was living in San Francisco, working for a solar startup, and had just taken a totally different direction in my life. And I connected with my uncle again at a Christmas party. And he was like, hey, we're taking this document management into the EHR space, and somebody with your education, I could really use somebody with your skill set and bring it to my team. And so it happened to be around the time that the HITECH Act passed. And so it was a kind of perfect timing for me to really just like jump in. And so I spent a lot of time with this like sink or swim, like figure out why people would care about an electronic health record and why are they implementing it and what are the government incentives. And it essentially just sent me down the rabbit hole. And I realized like, oh my gosh, I think I didn't realize that this had been here this whole time, but I had found it. And for the longest time, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do for my career, but when I found health IT, it felt very much like home.
That's incredible. It's like taking the family business to the next level.
Yeah.
I love that. That's incredible. Well, you're doing so much in this space. And so I first wanted to start with the podcast, Hit Like a Girl. What inspired you to create a podcast?
I have two answers for you. And the short answer is anger. I was actually I had been working as a consultant, as a subject matter expert, and traveling all around to different doctors' offices around the country. And my experience was working with a lot of women and women who were running clinics, and they were the administrators, and they were a lot of the decision makers and doctors as well.
Yeah.
And then when I would start to go to conferences, I just realized the imbalance. And I would be like, okay, well, who's actually up on the stage? Who's representing the direction of these organizations and what their vision is and whatnot? And I just felt really that women were not part of that conversation or really given a platform. And I thought, I have a specific skill set. I was really liking the medium of podcasting and how it is possible to sort of do it yourself. You can do it from anywhere. And I just thought, well, I have this tech background, I have a skill set, and I love talking with people. And if there's something that I can do to change this culture, I'm going to do it. And so I kind of didn't really know what I was doing when I started, but essentially learned along the way. And and have no regrets. It was a really solid move. So that we started back in 2018.
Oh, wow. That is
And
what a, like, inspiration. That's incredible. What would you say is, like, the mission of the podcast? What are you hoping the podcast, will achieve?
so mostly it started out as just feeling like amplifying women. You know, and when they
Yeah.
say that when you're at a meeting and heard that if you amplify your friend or your peer, then sometimes, like, basically more people saying the same thing
Yeah.
will land.
Yeah.
It started out with that. And then I was thinking it'd be really nice to just like acknowledge and recognize women for their contributions, because I
Mm,
felt like they weren't really being honored or acknowledged for everything that they give
yeah.
to this industry.
Yeah.
And now I see it as like a total culture shift. Like I want to change the culture of like where women support each other and we pull each other up, and there's and that there's more seats at the table, and like, oh, let's
Yeah.
work towards gender equity and pay equity and all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you're creating, like, such a space to really not only have those conversations, but to really, like, have that inspire action, which I think, is really important.
And some of the feedback, like, it's been really neat because a lot of, not a lot, but it's been
Oh,
nice
joy, it looks like
speaking in public or with
Mhm.
like, I'm not sure if I froze.
You did for, like, a hot second.
Okay. Well, it's been really neat to see how it has basically like lifted women up in
Yeah.
other areas and sort of given them something that they can add to their resume as like a speaking engagement or something that they can use as their own professional asset in their journey. And
Yeah.
so that's something I feel really good about.
That's incredible. And I also wanted to ask you too, I think when it comes to, um, any lessons learned that you have just from not only starting a podcast, but really this idea of, like, content creation and then creating spaces for women. For anyone in the audience who's interested in something like that, do you have any lessons learned or tips?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of them. My biggest one has been like, don't let fear stop you. Like
Mm,
to say that it's not something that you're afraid of. Like the fear exists. Whatever big thing you're going to do, the fear is still there. But do the thing anyway. That it's
mhm.
worth it, and all of the benefits and the returns, lessons that you learn along the way, like as they
Oh,
say, are totally worth it. Um, I
I
also
love that.
Yeah, that's one, it's just like sits with me all the time. And there's a
Yeah.
phrase that my dad used to tell me, which is like, just be bigger than your fear. Like, don't
Yeah.
expect that the fear is not going to be there, but just be bigger than it.
Yeah. I love that. It's like, still be afraid, but do the thing.
Yes, so you can be afraid, but still do the thing anyway.
Yeah.
And then there's like a Brene Brown quote that she's like,
Okay.
fear is so boring. Like, all it does is it tells you no and to stop and don't do the thing. And all of the excitement is on the other side of that, is
Yeah,
from saying yes.
totally. Yeah, that's a great lessons learned, that's a great tip. Incredible. So now wanna to hop on over to, the other amazing work that you're doing, with Chirpy Bird. What prompted you to start a health IT consultancy?
Well, so I had in when I had kind of got pulled in with my family and learning the High Tech Act, it was an opportunity for me to become a subject matter expert in this idea of a transition to value based care. And so the way my brain works is I was an English major actually in my undergrad, and I really needed to just like let me understand this as much as possible and then translate it into a way that I think that others can get it. I don't know if you've ever read a federal rule, but they come out every year. They're 2,400 pages long, and they're really, really hard to follow. Like, there's
Mhm.
not a narrative, and it's not
They
it's not like
purposely made it hard.
yeah, they make it hard. And so I was feeling like, well, what is my opportunity to, like, how can I apply my skill set to be of service or be of use? And
Yeah.
writing is one way, synthesizing information and basically turning that into training. And so essentially the beginnings of my consulting career were training on these things. And so
Mm,
I had ended up getting recruited not just to train doctors and their staff, but also teams of people who were training doctors and their staff
mhm,
nationwide on like the details of the merit-based incentive payment system, which used to be, meaningful use or quality payment programs, that sort of thing.
yeah.
And I was doing that for several years with a great team of people. And then one Friday in 2018, that company that we were working for
Mhm.
had gotten bought out, and so they had new ownership.
Oh,
And those new owners wanted to go in a different direction. They didn't want to service those clients in the same way. And so one Friday on a conference call, like 25 of us just were told, like, today's your last day. Um,
wow.
and that's it. And so they didn't want to do that business anymore.
Yeah,
We had a team of people who were very qualified and clients who were not going to be served, and we had relationships with them. And so
right.
thankfully there was no non-compete, and we were able to form an entity and then
Wow.
keep our team and keep working with a lot of the same clients and kind of build from there. And so
Oh my gosh.
it was
Wha
literally like Chirpy Bird was non-existent on a Friday, and then on Tuesday of the next week, it was like, okay, we're doing this thing. And so we're a team of 6 people,
Oh my
women,
gosh.
and we live across the country, and we basically set it up to work remotely to support clinicians through the transition to value-based care. So it's kind of like being a data accountant, like
Mhm.
accounting for data, making sure that people are tracking their information, and then when they submit it to the government, that it is the best that it could possibly be, right?
Right. Right, right. Wow, what an origin story. That's incredible.
I know, I know. There's more to it, but that's a book.
No, well, wait, that's book pending. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
What are some of the, with what you're doing right now with Trippy Bird, what are some of, the projects that you're working on? Anything that you can share with us?
Well, on the Chirpy Bird side of things, we're kind of just a steady, smooth, like rolling along. We do a lot of work with our like bringing on new clients. We do a lot of security risk assessments, which isn't the sexiest kind of work, but it is needed, and
Right.
it's something that like everybody needs to keep track of, making sure that they're
Absolutely.
not from being like cyber attacked.
Yep.
But on the podcast side of things, we are doing things like collaborations, and I'm starting to have conversations with different like schools of medicine or different curriculums with health IT, so that we can start, like, my vision and what I would like to start doing is creating scholarships so that we can support single women into health IT careers,
Wow.
to that transition. So that's on my horizon and my vision board for
That
2022.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like such an incredible initiative that I think is going to be very, very powerful. I think on that note, when you think about just the work you've done, both with the consultancy and with the podcast and everything you have in the horizon, do you have any other goals or goalposts for the future of things you want to do to kind of help support women?
Yeah, basically, I tend to ask myself on a daily basis, like, what is the most impact I can make, or like, what's the most impactful thing that I can do today?
Yeah.
And if I could wave a magic wand and make some magical like impact in the world, it would be around like maternal mortality. If
Mhm.
we could, excuse me,
No, it's
if we could like improve the outcomes of moms going, in the United States. When I look at the statistics around that, it's just like deplorable, to be honest.
Mhm.
I'd love
Yeah.
to be able to make an impact there. I love the idea of being able to create a path for young women who are looking for careers, and kind of just supporting them on their journey so that they feel like there's a lot of opportunity, big
Yeah,
problems that they can solve, that they're going to get paid well for, and that they
absolutely.
can, support their life and their family. And I mean, there's really no shortage of things to do, to be
Mhm.
honest.
Mhm. No, yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head with that one, absolutely. There's always, there's just so many opportunities to, like you were saying, bring others up and can kind of continue to create space to support.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like that we're starting to create a little bit of a bandwagon of like it's cool to support each other instead
Yeah.
of compete with one another.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's a really meaningful thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I wanna, leverage your subject matter expertise, and ask you a little bit, what when we think about, healthcare today, especially when it comes to things like data and information management, what are some of the big problems that you're seeing kind of when you put on your health IT lens? What are some of the gaps in the current healthcare system as it relates to some of these key issues around data?
I think a lot of it is missing data. Just like
Mm,
one of the biggest thing is just literally missing data. There's a
yeah.
lot of um, missing information around women's health issues, women like there's I mean from clinical trials to different devices to like how we treat certain conditions. I think that like not having an equal or balanced representation of the people that have been involved in the research
Yeah.
um, has had terrible results.
Mhm.
And it's something that like people. I mean, you can go down like the list of things like with heart conditions or with endometriosis or fertility, et cetera. Like there's just missing data and things that haven't really been deemed worthy of studying, which I
Mm.
hope changes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, the research component is such a huge piece already, the fact that there is, so much missing data or underrepresentation. So I know that that's going to be, hopefully a very continues to be a very big area of interest, to kind of fix that whole issue. Also wanted to ask you, I think we've been seeing an increase in like the use of like wearable technology, and you think about like just the remote monitoring devices, but I think also, when we see how like Apple is talking about the how you can monitor heart activity with the watch and how they're kind of selling a lot of these things as health products. What are your kind of thoughts on what that would look like when it comes to the integration with, other health systems or your EHR? Uh-oh.
I see. I think we froze a little bit, but I'm pretty sure I caught what you said.
Okay, good. I was gonna say
Can
I
you
could
hear me?
totally say that again.
No, well, one thing that I think that I don't personally have an Apple Watch. I know how powerful it is. My mom was just telling me how excited she is about her like new generation of Fitbit that like is like has all these like breathing exercises to help calm her down, and she seems I don't know how much that's going to get integrated into an EHR anytime soon, but I do think it's important to like have data so that you can ask questions of it.
Yeah.
um, one thing that I have been surprised about recently has been a wearable device that I didn't know
Oh.
was a thing. And it's not a heart monitor, it's not a um, like step tracker or anything. It's like something that controls your temperature. And
Huh.
there's two buttons on the side that if I am feeling cold and I want to like warm up my personal body without having to like turn on a heater, I can literally like press the button and it's going to send these like warming waves to me. And vice versa,
Wow.
if I'm hot and I'm cold and I want to do the same thing. And it's like it's making me feel empowered around things like stress, anxiety, sleep. And I'm not in a menopausal place in my life. I think I'm technically perimenopausal at that stage or whatever, but like
Yeah.
it's making me less stressed about the future of menopause. That I'm like,
Wow.
oh, if I had a hot flash one day and I wanted to like super cool my body off,
Yeah.
I have a way now that I feel empowered to do that.
I
It's
did not even know this existed. That's incredible.
Yeah, it just came on my radar within the last like month, and I've
Wow.
I've been wearing it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this was something that I would be so excited about because
That's it. It's
it
one of those
isn't
things
all
like
the
you never
time.
knew you needed it, but now that you
Mhm.
have it, you're like, how have I lived my life without this?
Well, yeah, and it's getting into winter, so I'm just like, oh, there's times like, oh, I'm a little bit chilly, and instead of complaining, imagine like at a conference or something that like
Yeah.
the air conditioner is on super high,
Yeah.
and you're just like, well, I'm chilly, so I'm just going to change my own
That's
body
amazing.
temperature.
This is also like a
Like,
revolution in
I'm
event
excited
planning.
about that kind of right.
That is so awesome. Well, now we know for anyone listening, if you are interested in having your personal heater slash AC unit, that is something that exists
Yeah,
now. That is so cool.
I
Well, kind
know.
of in the on the topic of health innovation, what is the direction that you are seeing women's health tech continue to go, and where would you like to see it go?
Well, one, I'm seeing more like investment in femtech, and
Hmm.
like that is starting to make a little bit more waves,
Yeah,
so that's really great to see.
absolutely.
I know that Maven just had like a big win, and they're getting into Medicaid. It's really exciting to see what they're doing.
Hmm.
I am really thrilled that there's starting to expand the offerings of products and services for women that are like beyond fertility and like cycle stuff,
Yeah.
like just like different, but to offer products and services and devices and whatnot that are supportive of women at all stages of their life, not with just the things that help support them to become a mom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100% agree. I think, the emphasis around just like an entire woman's life, not just the fertility aspect, or maybe the contraception aspect, which I know are really popular and definitely super important. But it is nice to see that there is a lot of interest and investment being made into all of these other, issues and conditions that are meaningful and important to us as women.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am starting to like look at the horizon of my life a little bit and be like,
Mhm.
okay, well, 20 years from now and 30 years from now, like what would be on my mind?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be fertility. Like that's not going to be the conversation. And I know that there's going to be other things that I would want. My other dream is to create a Golden Girl retirement community.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That is that is my not so secret wish of just like creating a community for women to have like, I don't know, dance classes and spa treatments and whatever with
Yes.
just your good friends.
That's incredible. So that's what we have to look forward to for you. Started with the
Yeah.
podcast, ends with a community.
Yeah, that's correct.
I love it. I 100% support this endeavor.
Wonderful.
And now, kind of, as we're kind of nearing the end of our time together, wanted to ask you, do you have any advice for any inspiring, health IT or just healthcare professionals, entrepreneurs, etc. Anything that kind of stuck out to you when you were kind of in the beginning of your journey?
Well, I mean, I've had an opportunity to speak with a lot of really amazing women, and I get to ask them similar questions. And so, some of the most recent good advice has been, well, they've been twofold. One is, play to your strengths. Instead of trying to play to your weaknesses, understand what your own personal strengths are, and then like double and triple down on that. Like, do
Mhm.
really good at because they come naturally to you and strengthen those.
Yeah.
And then the second one, it was a woman named Eileen Martin. And she was telling me that, statistically, women get more feedback on their style. Like people will tell them that they're too much or too little of something. And
Yeah.
then if you ever find yourself in a position where you're getting in a professional setting feedback on your style, to flip this script a little bit and start turning it into talking about what your results are or
Yeah.
what are the outcomes, or really turning it into facts instead of you know something personal, to be honest.
Right. Wow. That is really interesting. And now that I'm reflecting back, I mean, I can definitely see how that really is the case for women in a professional setting.
Mhm.
Wow. And so, before we end, quick plug for you, with the Hit Like a Girl podcast, who are you interviewing next? What is the timing for that for anyone who's interested?
Yeah, so I'm so glad you asked. Well, we just wrapped up sharing 25 women for our season 6. So we've got like bingeable content that is just all very new and recent, some great stuff. I'm currently recording. I have 40 women on the schedule that will be releasing their episodes in the first quarter of 2022. So we're just like increasing the number of women that we are interviewing and their stories. And then I'm also opening up the platform for some guest interviewers and so that it's not me having this
Oh, wow.
conversation, that it's like other people in our community interviewing their, what we're calling like lady boss crushes.
Oh,
So
love
we're doing this like lady boss crush series that we'll be releasing most likely in December. Um,
Wow.
so
All right. So, audience, if you have a lady boss crush or if you're interested, please check out Hit Like a Girl podcast in December. That sounds incredible. And I definitely will be attending myself.
awesome.
Well, I wanted to thank you so much, Joy, for this, very enlightening conversation. I think we covered so much about, the amazing work that you're doing, but why it's so important to be able to have spaces like these. So I just wanted to say, thank you again for this, incredible conversation.
Well, it's very nice to meet you, Nina, and happy to spend this time with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So just wanted to share, some quick comments. So next week we will not be having a Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. Please enjoy/get ready for Thanksgiving the next day. But that following week we will have another episode with Providence Health. Also wanted to let everyone know that our Innovator Summit will be also in 2 weeks, November 30th to December 2nd. So please be sure to register and check that out. Now we have a lot of really great speakers and panels for you all. And also just wanted to lastly mention for those that did not see this earlier, that Curio is still looking for participants for their study. So if you are interested, all of that information is also all on the chat. And our Women's Health Tech Challenge is in December, where we will be showcasing some incredible innovators, and all of that information is also in the chat. And for more information on all just, the incredible things that we have going on, please be sure to stay in touch with us on social media. And also just wanted to give one last shout out to our amazing guest, Joy. Thank you so much, Joy, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last thank you to our sponsors, Goodwin and Witham, for sponsoring this conversation. And with that, I will say have an amazing rest of the day, everyone, and see you not next week, but the week after. Bye.